Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here, once again with another video on The Flash Season 4. So this is going to be my review for Episode 1 of The Flash Season 4, otherwise entitled The Flash Reborn. So obviously going ahead, there will be spoilers within this review because we're going to go over most of the stuff from the premiere episode for The Flash Season 4. But before we jump into that, I do want to thank everyone for 150,000 subscribers. I did mention in my Supergirl review yesterday, but obviously I thought I'd mention it to the Flash crowd or the Flash-centric crowd, so thanks for that. Now obviously at the end of last season, we saw Barry sort of give himself up to the Speed Force in regards to having to, balance the Speed Force so it didn't sort of destroy Central City, because it was raining down a lot of hell on there and we had no idea how much damage it could have done, so Barry had to sacrifice himself just to calm all of that down. And that's really where we pick up at the beginning of Season 4. We just pick up 6 months after Barry gave himself up to the Speed Force, and we see how Central City is doing without its Scarlet Speedster, the Flash. Now obviously Wally and Cisco are the main metahumans protecting it. They do have Iris and Joe on board as well. Iris more like that hub in the center of Star Labs, and Joe obviously incorporating the Central City Police Department with them as well. It was very interesting seeing that they had Iris narrating the intro. I did say that it wasn't surprising because I thought that's what they would go with, because even in the Season 4 trailer from Comic-Con, I think she was narrating it as well. But I do feel it was a missed opportunity not to have Wally narrating it, just because I do feel they sometimes give Wally a hard time, not give him a lot of stuff. So having him narrate that and say that he was the Flash would have been a nice moment, but I can understand why they went with Iris. But in regards to Wally and Cisco protecting Central City, they're doing it pretty hard. They're not the most professional at it yet. They definitely go the hard way when it comes to taking down certain metahumans. Obviously, in the case of the beginning of this episode, it was Peekaboo. And it was good to see her back. Now, one thing I mentioned on Twitter, and it did seem that a lot of people missed it when watching the episode, and that was when they name dropped Julian Alberts and explained where he went. They covered it really quickly. If you weren't paying attention, you would have missed it. But they said that Julian went back to London, so just really a random little name drop. And I'm sure people might have missed it, and will still not know about it going ahead into the season, and still be asking what happened to Julian. They just said he went back to London. Really didn't cover anything else, and they just said that basically the Central City Police Department, forensic side of it, is now short-staffed because Barry's gone, and of course Julian's gone. Now the villain for this episode, or the antagonizing force that Team Flash has to deal with, is the Flying Samurai, or as Cisco later coins at the end of the episode, and what they're actually called from the comics, the Samuroid. And he wants the Flash. He wants the real Flash, might I say. He doesn't want some posing Flash that he basically, gives a little hint to Wally at, saying, hey, you're not the real Flash, we want the other dude. A bit random, Wally now speaks Japanese, so that's just something, I guess, it's just chucked into the show now. I know that Kenan Lonsdale, who plays Wally West, is very attached, or maybe even obsessed with Japanese culture, so it wouldn't surprise me if he actually knew Japanese and thought, hey, why don't we bring that into the episode? Now, obviously, one of the big parts of this episode was getting Barry out of the Speed Force, because they had to deal with the Samuroid. He, knew that Wally wasn't the real Flash, and they wanted the legit Flash, so they needed to get Barry out of the Speed Force. And I was wondering why there was so much, opposing force, I guess, to Cisco's plan, because he'd been working on it for a while, consulted many, many different people with very high IQ, so I was wondering why there was so much, negativity towards it at first. I do feel like Iris was a bit up and down this episode. Sometimes she was just calm down, Iris, seriously calm down, and then sometimes she was okay. I'm wondering how they're going to deal with her this season, just because she struggled the past couple of seasons. I think Iris was at her strongest point in Season 1, and then in Seasons 2 and 3, she's had high points, but then very low points. This character's a bit inconsistent, so I'm hoping in this season they, grab onto some consistency with the Iris character. This episode didn't give me much hope of that, but I'm hoping going forward with Barry back, maybe she won't be so sad all the time. Maybe she might be able to grow into a much better character this season. But yeah, Cisco's plan to get Barry out was pretty scientific. I'm not going to jump into it, but it was pretty cool seeing it all play out. Now, one character that we haven't mentioned yet in this review or this video is Caitlin. So we knew that Caitlin was going to be in this episode through promo images and the trailer, and through those promo images we also knew that she'd be working at a bar. So it's a bit more of a hardcore Caitlin, because this bar didn't look like the most friendly of places. But it really didn't take too much convincing to get Caitlin back on board. I don't think she was necessarily too happy with the environment she was in, but you can understand why she was in that environment, just trying to stay away from what she considered normal over the past few years of her life. But obviously going back to Cisco's plan to get Barry out, even though it was a bit delayed and it didn't work at first, it eventually does work and Barry's able to finally escape from the Speed Force. I'm interested to see if there is any ramifications in regards to maybe the Speed Force once again becoming unbalanced in the next couple of episodes. But I thought the actual way that he escaped from the Speed Force was pretty cool. Like the Speed Force actually opened up and he ran out of it. So it wasn't like that normal sort of portal that you would see Barry running through. It was actually like this, like the existence of Earth ripped open. We saw the Speed Force. I thought that was actually really cool. But Barry actually escapes the Speed Force naked. So Barry does quite the nudie run, probably the fastest nudie run anyone will ever see. So yeah, that was a pretty comedic moment of the episode. But when we first meet Barry, his brain is just absolutely all over the joint. Like he's there, like he can speak English. I think there was some debate whether, okay, is he going to be speaking gibberish when he comes out of the Speed Force? But he's speaking English. But he's also writing all these symbols on the wall, which is just confusing the hell out of everyone. There's also a funny moment, which I'll talk about in a second, regarding or coming from these symbols. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Barry was reciting lines from the pilot episode of The Flash. So season 1 of episode 1. I know he said a line that he says to Oliver Queen in the episode, and I think he was talking about stuff that he said to Joe in that episode in regards to his mother's murder and his father's imprisonment. So I think that's what they were doing. Correct me if I'm wrong if they mentioned any other lines from other episodes, but it did seem very season 1 centric, all of the quotes and lines that Barry was repeating. Seeing Wally in the Flash suit was very quick. It was a very, very quick scene because we'd seen set photos of it from months ago and stuff like that. So it was a very quick scene. I thought we might get more of it, but he was in the Flash suit nonetheless. So I guess you can say that we saw Wally West take on the mantle of the Flash for a bit. But the Samuroid is much too smart for that. I did not think that would work at all. And they obviously did the little homage to the comic book cover from the 80s or 90s in regards to the Samuroid. I think it was Attack of the Samuroids was that little comic arc that they were involved with. So there's a little homage to that. Now, obviously, I did mention the symbols before, and that translation to "this house is bitchin" just had me laughing out loud. It was hilarious. I just thought, I thought it was going to be a serious moment. It was loading, what's it going to be? And then it just said, "this house is bitchin." And I was like, wow, that's hilarious. I wasn't expecting it, but yeah, they got me. So good work there. Now, I think one of the negatives of the episode, it's not a massive one, it's just a thing where we have a show that's 23 episodes per season, and sometimes in some episodes, some moments can feel very rushed, and I do feel Barry recollecting himself was a bit rushed, and obviously that was done in order for him to save Iris from the Samuroid, because she'd given herself up, just believing and hoping that her being in trouble would, snap Barry back to reality, and of course it works. And due to this, we get to see Barry in the new suit, which is, nothing new. We've seen those shots from not only set photos, but also official images and stuff like that with Barry in the new suit. So only a handful of people would have been seeing it for the first time now. But one of the most interesting things that comes from this when Barry goes and, chases after the Samuroid and Iris is that he is going incredibly fast, faster than they've seen anyone go before. So I'm assuming they include Zoom, Savitar, and Reverse Flash in that. So they're not just comparing Jesse Quick, Wally, Jay, and stuff to Barry. They're including the evil speedsters we've seen before, who of course we know have been pretty damn fast. So they didn't really go too in depth with Barry's speed, but hopefully they do that in the next couple of episodes. But in regards to this season, speed isn't the most important thing. So this actually might be a smart choice to make Barry really, really fast in a season that doesn't necessarily matter too much, because the forces that they're coming up against, speed isn't the main tool that you need to use. Now, another question going into this season does get explained, or sort of hinted at, or roughly explained towards the end of the episode when we see Caitlin go back to the bar she was working at and essentially quit. I don't know if she necessarily full on quit. Actually, she did, didn't she? Yeah, she quit, but she goes frosty, and I think she says you wouldn't like it when I go frosty. So there's a little hint or reference or Easter egg to the Incredible Hulk there, which I thought was pretty funny. But something that they do mention is that the guy who I think is Norvok, I think that's what his name was. I don't think they mention it in the episode, but that's what he's casted at. That's what he's listed as, Norvok. He mentions Amunet, who is Amunet Black, who is Blacksmith, who's going to be controlling the black markets. And they haven't confirmed this yet, but it does seem like she's going to be a black market of metahumans. So instead of people hiring guns and mobsters to do certain things, she'll be hiring out metahumans to do jobs for people. So I think that's in episode 4 or 5 that she's coming in. So at least they name dropped her early, and we know that Caitlin was involved with her, so that's pretty interesting. But they also do hint that like Caitlin is not in control of her Killer Frost side. Like there's dormant periods where like nothing happens, but then Killer Frost can come back and just get angry if Caitlin is triggered. So I think that's what they're going to do this season, and it's just really about Caitlin trying to calm herself down so she can go Killer Frost if she wants to, but then she can go back to Caitlin as soon as she no longer needs to be Killer Frost. So I'm assuming that's what most of her arc this season is going to be. But to finish this episode off, we had a really cool moment. I was like, okay, I'd seen at the beginning of the episode Neil's Sanderlands down the bottom. I was like, okay, they've listed the guy that's playing Clifford DeVoe, aka the Thinker. Are they going to show him? And the end credit scene for this episode is us meeting the mechanic, who is like the Thinker's like side helper person. And then we actually meet the Thinker, and he's in this big, like, just big chair, stuff all over his head. He is frail as hell. He is very weak, but he looks cool. I was wondering how they were going to design the Thinker. They could have made him really corny or made him really cool. They got him pretty damn right. I'm excited to see what they do with the character because he looked really awesome. And I don't think it was too much of a surprise once they revealed that the Samuroid was a robot, that the Thinker was in charge of the Samuroid. So I'm not too surprised there once they revealed that it was an actual robot. But overall, I thought this was a solid episode. It wasn't the most amazing premiere. I'm like, don't, because there was some issues, like it was boring in some parts, I'm not going to lie. I thought the last half of the episode, though, was like spot on. I thought it was amazing. There was just a couple of bits at the beginning or the first half of this episode, which were a bit, but that's what you get in a premiere. They're just sort of like recapping what's happening, so you can't really knock them down too much from that. But I think they've set up what's going to be happening in the next couple of episodes, at least the first half of the season, pretty well, with not only like Barry, but also other characters on Team Flash. And I just can't get over the Thinker. I think he looks really awesome. Let me know if you agree with me in the comments. Am I just, in my own world where I think he's awesome? But I think he looks pretty damn sick. But thanks for watching, guys. If you did enjoy the video, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support for the video and the channel as a whole. Let me know in the comments section down below, what did you think of this episode? What do you think of the Thinker? What do you think of the new suit? Just leave all of them in the comments section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.